Welcome back to the channel. Let's explore together. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be ranking all of the Batman movies in my Star Wars shirt. So we're ranking all of the live action adaptations of Batman that went to theater. There are 11 of those that I am aware of, if we're including Batman vs. Superman and the Justice League, which we are for the sake of this list. So let's go ahead and start to rank these from 11 to 1. So from worst to best. So of these Bat-trocities, I'd say the worst of the worst is the wonderful, horrible thing known as Batman and Robin. This is as bad as Batman ever got. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the nipple suit. Nothing about this was okay. It's the Adam West campy Batman without anything that made that good. It's a disgrace. We've all tried to move on from it. Next, you have Speak of the Devil, the Adam West Batman, which in its own right has a campy charm to it, but it's not really watchable more than once for the, nostalgia or whatever you want to call of it. Batman fighting off giant rubber sharks with shark repellent spray that he keeps on him. There is a charm to the Adam West Batman, but all it does is hold up slightly better than the accidental cringe of Batman and Robin. So now number 9, the 9th rated Bat-catastrophe of this. And I guess I should preface, well, I won't preface. We're gonna rank it and then talk about it. It's gonna be Justice League. Now, what I'm talking about and what I was gonna preface with is we're talking about the best cuts of these movies. Okay, so I'm talking about Justice League. Let's look at the Snyder cut, which I've seen, the original, and Batman vs. Superman. There's a 3-hour rated R extended version and the original. We're talking about if you take the best elements of these movies, that's how we're ranking. That puts Justice League at number 9. It's a mess of a movie. The Snyder cut did not redeem it. The Snyder cut was like 90% in slow motion and it was better than the original Justice League, but it still wasn't any good. And if you think it was any good, may God have mercy on your soul. Not really a Batman movie, but it's, on the list. It's Batman on the big screen. So there you go. Coming right up after it, after Justice League's nonsense, this is where I'm kind of torn. It's almost a toss-up between Batman vs. Superman and Batman Forever. Batman Forever with the Jim Carrey Riddler. But I think Jim Carrey's Riddler makes that movie worth rewatching enough that next on the list is Batman vs. Superman. Batman vs. Superman, the extended version, is the only version of this movie with any redeeming quality. The PG-13 2-hour version is just complete trash, would be much lower on the list. The 3-hour version, on the other hand, it's way too long, but it has some redeeming qualities, and at least Batman's arc makes sense in the 3-hour version, because you could see that he's just become a complete vigilante murderer, much like the Punisher, and Alfred's like, what are you doing? And it actually makes sense how he could somewhat best Superman, because Superman wasn't really sure what to expect of this guy, and Batman is just this crazy dude, unhinged, willing to kill anything in the longer version. It's a crappy rendition of Batman. It's a bad movie, but at least it somewhat makes sense in the rated R version. And so, but there you go. It's 8th, which means coming up next is Batman Forever with Jim Carrey. This one's campy and corny, but not nearly to the levels of Batman and Robin. This one, it feels like at least they were aware of what they were doing. I think, oddly enough, one of the biggest struggles with Batman Forever was Tommy Lee Jones didn't know what to do with Two-Face. He was trying to keep up with the energy of Jim Carrey, and their chemistry didn't work. Jim Carrey was very entertaining in that movie. There were some good concepts in that movie for a campy Batman film. It's not terrible. It plays pretty good as a action comedy, but Tommy Lee Jones definitely holds it back. He did not know what to do in that role as Two-Face. So now we're starting to get into, where these movies start to get a little more decent. We're getting into the better Bat territory. And so at number 6, we have The Dark Knight Rises. So this was the end to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. The Dark Knight Rises. It's pretty much, there's no argument that this is the weakest of the Nolan trilogy, but it still stands above most other, still stands in the middle of the row of all Batman movies we've gotten. Christopher Nolan's worst is still a lot better than a lot of people's best in Batman. But The Dark Knight Rises was just disjointed. The Catwoman portrayal by Anne Hathaway didn't work. The plot twists, it didn't work. The whole scale of the story, the fact that Gotham looked like a completely different city all of a sudden, it felt like Pittsburgh. It wasn't there. It had really good dramatic moments, but you could tell that the trilogy was supposed to be done with Heath Ledger. And when Heath Ledger passed away and they still wanted to finish it, they were pretty confused as to what to do, and that shows in The Dark Knight Rises. After The Dark Knight Rises, we go into Batman Returns, which is a solid movie that should have led to a Batman extended universe before extended universes were cool. If you didn't know, the plan that Tim Burton had was he was working on a Nicolas Cage Superman movie, and Superman and Batman were going to start to cross paths, and Robin was going to come in. Batman 3 and then the Superman movie were going to be made, and then they were going to come into the same universe. So Tim Burton was creating extended universes before Marvel did, right? Cinematic universes before Marvel had thought to do it. And why was he stopped? Well, it wasn't because Batman Returns flopped. Batman Returns was critically acclaimed for a good reason. It's a good movie, and the audiences liked it pretty well. Unfortunately, because it was too scary for young kids, it didn't sell toys. And as we know with Young Justice and many other Warner Brothers properties, if they can't sell toys, they can't. So they went from Batman Returns to a sharp turn into Batman Forever, which again, Batman Forever wasn't terrible, but it certainly wasn't up to par with where Tim Burton had been going with the series. A lot of people think that Batman Returns flopped or something because, they're too young or uninformed to know, but it wasn't that Batman Returns was a bad movie. It's that it couldn't push toys. The Warner Brother nixed Tim Burton. After Batman Returns, we go to Batman Begins. Batman Begins was how Christopher Nolan's trilogy started. Batman Begins is a great Batman movie. It has a fun origin story, a take on many of the different comics to get it there. And it was just a good revival of Batman. It was the first big Batman we got after Batman and Robin, and it really brought Batman to a more serious place that we hadn't seen. Tim Burton was still very comic book in his delivery. It was darker, but it was very comic book. The Dark Knight was the first time that we saw more of a graphic novel version of Batman rather than a comic book version of Batman to screen. And it was a breath of fresh air and kicked off a great series. Then we go to one of the Batman movie many people consider the OG, the original Batman, 1989, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson. Great Batman movie, good Joker, comic book, but also serious and dark in tone. Michael Keaton is still one of the best Batmans to do it. It's very interesting. Tim Burton's take is very different from the comics and very Tim Burton, but also kind of rooted in the comics. Kind of a weird conundrum. His Batman kills pretty frequently through the Batman 1 and 2, sometimes more deliberately than others. And it's just an interesting take. It's a lot more unhinged. All the characters are more unhinged. Batman's unhinged. The Joker obviously is always an unhinged character, but it's a good Batman film that holds up. Next, we have The Batman. This one just came out. This is the Robert Pattinson Batman. The Batman was quite a surprise. Now, one thing this movie has going for it that some people will critique, but I won't, is its runtime. Runtimes on a movie like this, too many times we try to trim movies down, but the best form of media is long form media. You think of all of the best things that we have in films, it's long. Breaking Bad, the series, people talk about Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, the most awarded film of all time. That's like 12 one-hour episodes when you're watching the extended cut. So episodic films, Godfather, all of our most legendary movies are usually either a series of long movies or a movie that's pushing into that 3-hour range. Saving Private Ryan, Braveheart. Those legendary movies are long, and the reason is because to tell the best story, you have to take time. To get the advantage of both the story of a book and the power of visual and audio media, it takes time. And you have to do that in either a series of films or films that are 2.5, 3 hours plus. And the Batman, you could have trimmed some of it. Honestly, I wouldn't have wanted to see it trimmed because there was a lot of tension building, a lot of really cool cinematography, and the way they paced it didn't feel sluggish to me. Some people said it felt slow, and I just feel like some people just don't have really the right type of tension spans or depth of filmmaking appreciation for certain things, and that's fine. They'll still get over it. Even those people said they still liked the movie generally well enough, so no harm, no foul. But the Batman was an interesting take on Batman. It felt like a Batman from the more obscure comics that I read growing up. It felt like one that was rooted in people who have read just dozens of Batman comics that weren't like the huge mainstream ones, but followed the core mainstream tenets and focus of Batman in the crime scene. It felt so rooted in reality as much as a Batman movie can be that it made Christopher Nolan's series seem like the Marvel movies in comparison. So it's a very rooted, very gritty, very real, very old Batman, the detective comics meets a new world. Loved seeing Batman as a detective again. I'm really excited that this is going to be a series, and I feel that this is a direction that Batman should be going. It feels like a gritty rated R movie, but it's tame enough that kids can watch it if they're mature kids. So good work. We'll see where this series goes. And now if the series screws itself up, it might make the first one kind of fall out of favor over time. That can happen with a series. But needless to say, right now it's my second favorite Batman of all time, and there's a good argument to be made for the case. And of course, to no one's surprise, the number one Batman is The Dark Knight. I don't think anyone should be surprised that this is the top of the list. This is a movie that's going to take something special to dethrone. This is a movie that pushes into that 2.5 hour mark as well and does great with its runtime. I think this movie's close. I think this movie's over 2.5 hours. Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker redefined how people envision what the Joker could be. When he was cast, I remember the backlash from myself included, because we all thought of Mark Hamill's Joker when we thought of the Joker, and that Joker was tall, lanky, skinny, and Heath Ledger was the dude from A Knight's Tale, and he was short and stocky, and nothing about the casting made sense to anybody. The fan backlash was real, and then not 30 seconds into the movie, the first time seeing the Joker, you're sold. And that take of the Joker has become the norm, like this super anarchist, and I don't care about money, and I'm just here for the insanity of it. That's like how people view the Joker, but that's not what the Joker always was. That iteration of the Joker was largely popularized, not invented by, but popularized by Heath Ledger's portrayal. Going back to, again, Mark Hamill's Joker, which was the most popular Joker up at the time, he was obsessed with money. Jack Nicholson's Joker was also very money obsessed. Most of the Jokers we had he was just the next crime boss. He was just a crazier version. And in a lot of versions of Joker, he was a crime boss that just had some sort of accident that happened to him. And now he's a supervillain crime boss. He was just another one of the Falcones or Maronis, just nobody knew who he was. Heath Ledger's take on that is, no, he's not just another crime boss. He's a totally different weapon. And again, the comics had touched on that and done that time and time again. But this is the first time that the mainstream got a taste of that, and Heath Ledger captured it. That was just impeccable. Very sad that we didn't get to see him continue to reprise that role. But there is my list. What do you think about it? Where do you rank these Batman films? Comment below. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed the content. And you know, we got a thumbnail, so let's thumbnail and block the list so people don't know before they watch. Gotta get the whole terribleness. Something. So yeah, let me know what you thought. Subscribe, all that stuff, and until we explore again, I'll see you next time.